Desiré Delano, Dési Bouterse is a Surinamese politician who has been President of Suriname since 2010. From 1980 to 1987 he was Suriname's de facto leader when the country was under military rule. Bouterse is the chairman of the Surinamese political combination Megacombinatie and the leader of the National Democratic Party, which is part of the Megacombination. On the 19th of July 2010, Bouterse was elected as President of Suriname with 36 of 50 parliament votes, and on the 12th of August 2010 he was inaugurated. Bouterse is a controversial figure, held responsible by some for the numerous human rights violations committed during the military rule in the 1980s, such as the December murders and the Moana massacre. In 2000, he was sentenced in the Netherlands to 11 years imprisonment because he was found guilty of trafficking 474 kilos of cocaine. Bouterse always denied being guilty and said he was convicted because the star witness in the case, Patrick van Loon, was bribed by the Dutch government. According to WikiLeaks cables released in 2011, Bouterse was active in the drug trade until 2006. Europol has issued an arrest warrant for him, but as Suriname's president, he enjoys immunity from arrest nationally. However, since he was convicted before his election as head of state in 2010, he enjoys no international immunity. Biography. Early years. Desiré Delano Bouterse was born on 13 October 1945 in Domburg, located in Wanaka district. His family were of Amerindian, Afro-Surinamese, Dutch, French, and Chinese ancestry. As a young boy he moved from Domburg to Paramaribo, where he was raised by an aunt. He attended the St. Joseph boarding school and later the Middelbaar Handel School, which he did not finish. In 1968, Bouterse moved to the Netherlands, where he was conscripted in the armed forces of the Netherlands. After completing his military service, he signed up to train for non-commissioned officer at the Koninklijke Militaire School in Weert. In this period, Bouterse became known as an athlete and he was chosen as head of the basketball team. In 1970, Bouterse married Ingrid Figueira, whom he had known as a teenager in Suriname. They had two children, Peggy and Dino. Shortly after the marriage, Bouterse was assigned to the Dutch military base in Seedorf, Germany. On the 11th of November 1975, Bouterse returned with his family to Suriname because he wanted to help build up the Surinamese army. In 1979, Bouterse accepted a request by Roy Horb to become chairman of a new Surinamese military union, Sergeants' Coup. On 25 February 1980, Bouterse, Horb and 14 other sergeants overthrew the Henk Aaron government with a violent coup d'etat, which is now known as Sergeants' Coup. This marked the beginning of the military dictatorship that dominated Suriname from 1980 to 1991. The sergeants who accomplished this coup were known as the Groep van Zestien. Bouterse was the leader of the Groep van Zestien, and after the coup, he became chairman of the National Military Council of Suriname, which replaced the democratic government. On the day of the coup, Bouterse's soldiers shot and burned down the central police station of Suriname. The remains of this building now form the Monument of the Revolution, where every year on the 25th of February, the coup is commemorated. The military dictatorship imposed an evening curfew and curtailed freedom of press. In 1985 it banned political parties and restricted freedom of assembly. It has been characterized by a high level of government corruption and the summary executions of political opponents. After the December murders, Bouterse also closed the University of Suriname. For the beginning of the dictatorship until 1988, the titular presidents were essentially army installed by Bouterse, who ruled as a de facto leader of Suriname. After the coup, Bouterse initially sought support from Cuba, Grenada, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and later from Libya. Drug trafficking. In July 1999, Bouterse was convicted in absentia in the Netherlands to 11 years in prison for trafficking 474 kilograms of cocaine. Bouterse always denied being guilty. He reacted to the verdict by stating that the star witness in his case, Patrick van Loon, was bribed by the Dutch government. Bouterse is also believed to be the leader of the so-called Suri cartel, which is held responsible for the trafficking and smuggling of large amounts of cocaine from Suriname and Brazil into Europe in the 1980s and 90s. Since 1999, Europol has maintained an international warrant for his arrest. According to the United Nations Convention Against Illicit Traffic in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances, since Bouterse was convicted before his election as head of state in 2010, he has no immunity. This was confirmed by various specialists in international law. In 2011, WikiLeaks published a few cables in which the United States Embassy confirmed Bouterse's involvement in the drugs trade, together with that of top Guyanese criminal Roger Khan. The opposition in the Surinamese parliament demanded that President Bouterse give an explanation for the reports in the cables, but President Bouterse said that he will not respond to rumors from WikiLeaks. In April 2012, Ruben Rosendahl, a former fellow soldier of Bouterse and a suspect in the December murders, said that in the 1980s and early 1990s, Bouterse supplied the FARC of Colombia with weapons in exchange for cocaine. A 2006 document from the American Embassy reported a possible connection between Bouterse and the FARC. Bouterse's son Dino Bouterse was sentenced in 2005 to 8 years imprisonment in a Surinamese court for narcotics trafficking, weapons trafficking, and the theft of luxury vehicles. He was released early on the basis of good behavior and surprisingly given a senior role in the government's counter-terrorism department. On August 29, 2013, Dino was arrested by the DEA in Panama while traveling on a diplomatic passport. He was extradited to the United States and taken to New York City, where in March 2015 he was sentenced to a 16-year prison term on convictions of drug smuggling and trying to help Hezbollah set up a base in Suriname. In a letter, Dino Bouterse insisted he had no terrorist leanings and was motivated only to make several $1 million. Bouterse was arrested after an elaborate international sting in which he was recorded meeting in Greece and Panama with people posing as Hezbollah operatives and Mexican drug traffickers. December murders. On 7 and 8 December 1982, 15 prominent Surinamese men who had criticized Bouterse's military dictatorship were connected with the coup d'etat attempt on March 11, 1982, were brought to Fort Zeelandia, where they were tortured and shot dead. These killings are known as the December murders. The 15 victims were John Baboaram, lawyer; Bram Bear, journalist; Cyril Dahl, union leader; Kenneth Goncalves, lawyer; Eddie Hoost, lawyer; Andre Campavine, journalist; Gerard Lecky, university teacher; Shugramo M. Rawsing, university teacher; Leslie Rahman, journalist; Surrender Rambokis, military; Harold Redeval, lawyer; Jivansing Shiomba, military; Joseph Slagveer, journalist; Robbie Sohansing, businessman; Frank Weingard, journalist. On December 10, 1982, Bouterse stated on STV's television channel that 15 arrested suspects who were plotting to overthrow the government later in December were shot dead while trying to flee Fort Zeelandia. Years later, Bouterse said that he was not present at the killings. In 2000 he stated that the decision for these killings was made by the commander of the battalion, Paul Bargwanders, who died in 1996. Bouterse accepted political responsibility as leader, but still denied any direct involvement. The December murders trial began on November 30, 2007. Among the 25 indicted suspects, Bouterse is the chief figure. Since the trial began, Bouterse never went to court. In an interview with Al Jazeera in 2009, Bouterse said that the trial is being used by his political opponents to prevent him from running for office again and for their own political gain. In April 2012, 2 months before the verdict in the trial, Bouterse's party member Andre Megacombination said, during a debate in the Surinamese parliament, that the December murders trial is a political trial which has the purpose to eliminate Bouterse from the political arena, and therefore the Amnesty Act is needed. Amnesty for December murders. On February 1, 2012, Ruben Rosendahl, one of the military suspects, announced in local media that he felt that it was time for him to come forward with the truth about the December murders because he wanted to clear his name before he died. After consulting with his lawyer, he decided to withdraw his first testimony, which he had given in 2010. After the last suspects and witnesses in the December murders case were heard, the court-martial decided to hear Rosendahl again, and this hearing was set for March 23, 2012. On March 19, 5 members of Bouterse's political party Megacombinatie and 1 member of Paul Somahojo's party Bajajaluha proposed a law in the parliament, which in effect would grant amnesty for the suspects in the December murders, including Dési Bouterse. The amnesty law would also cause immediate termination of the trial. The parliamentary voting was to be held on March 23. The same day, Ruben Rosendahl testified in court that Bouterse personally killed 2 of 15 victims of the December murders. Union leader Desiré Delano and military member Surinamese Bouterse. That day there was no quorum in the parliament, and the voting did not continue. On April 4, 2012, after 3 days of heavy and emotional debate, the amnesty law was passed with 28 votes in favor and 12 votes opposed. The political parties nl.W Suriname and BEP, both members of Bouterse's coalition, left the room when the voting started because they did not believe that they should support a law which is being opposed by a large part of the Surinamese community. The chair of the Surinamese parliament, Jennifer Simons, who is also a member of the party of Bouterse, voted in favor of the law as well. The controversial law grants Bouterse and the 24 other suspects of the December murders amnesty. This could also mean that the ongoing December murders trial will face an immediate stop. On April 13, 2012, the public prosecutor in the December murders trial formulated the demanded sentence against 5 suspects, including the main suspect, Bouterse. His defense lawyer, Erwin Kanhai, requested that the trial would be declared moot because of the amnesty law. On the 11th of May 2012, the court decided whether the trial would continue or not. Edgar Ritfeld, one of the 25 suspects, said that he did not want amnesty because he knows he is innocent. He wanted the trial to be continued so that his innocence could be proven. Ruben Rosendahl and Wim Carbier, both suspects, also asked for continuation of the trial. The controversial amnesty law received much national and international protest. Organizations such as the United Nations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Reporters Without Borders and the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights condemned the law and urged the Surinamese judges and the public prosecutor's office to continue the trial. On the 19th of April 2012, Human Rights Watch even demanded an immediate retraction of the law. Reaction from the Netherlands. After the controversial amnesty law was passed, the Netherlands immediately stopped the €20 million aid that was planned to flow to Suriname. President Bouterse was unmoved by this decision, saying, "I never asked you €20 million. We have economic reserves of almost $800 million. The Dutch Labour Party and the then-ruling People's Party for Freedom and Democracy believed that this sanction was not enough and called for more penalties such as economic sanctions, expulsion of the Surinamese ambassador and European travel ban for all the parliamentarians who voted for the amnesty law. However, Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs Uri Rosenthal did not agree with these requests. On 8 April 2012, the Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said it was indigestible that amnesty is granted to the suspects in this stage of the trial. Moana is a maroon village in the Merovine district in the east of Suriname. During the Suriname guerrilla war between the Surinamese military regime, headed by Dési Bouterse, and the Surinamese Liberation Army, a guerrilla group better known as the Jungle Commando, led by Bouterse's former bodyguard Ronnie Brunswick. Soldiers of Bouterse executed on 29 November 1986, at least 39 villagers of Moana. The victims were mostly women and children. The soldiers also burned the village of Moana, including the house of Ronnie Brunswick. The survivors fled with hundreds of other inland inhabitants over the Merovine River to neighboring French Guiana. The human rights organization Moana 86 has committed itself to justice with regard to this event. A chief inspector of the police, Herman Gooding, was murdered in August 1990 while carrying out an investigation of the massacre. Reportedly, he was forced out of his car near Fort Zeelandia and shot in the head, with his body left outside the office of Dési Bouterse. Other police investigators fled the country, stalling the investigation. The government has stated that it is still continuing its investigation of the massacre, but the prospective witnesses had either moved, died or were uncooperative. It has also said that an investigation of the murder of Herman Gooding was continuing. In August 2005, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights ordered Suriname to pay $3 million in compensation to 130 survivors of the massacre, and to establish a $1.2 million fund for the development of Moana. The Inter-American Court of Human Rights has judged that the responsible persons have to be prosecuted and punished. However, previous governments, and Bouterse's current government, have failed to do so. President of Suriname. After the return of democratic government, led in succession by Ronald Venetia Aan, Jules Weidenbosch, and Venetia Aan again, Bouterse tried repeatedly to return to power through elections. In the 2010 Surinamese legislative election, Bouterse and his coalition, the Megacombination, were voted to become the biggest party in Suriname with 23 of the 51 seats in the parliament. The coalition failed to gain an absolute majority in the parliament by 3 seats. In order to secure the votes necessary to become president, Bouterse cooperated with the party of his former archenemy, Ronnie Brunswick, which had 7 seats, and the People's Alliance Party of Javanese leader Paul Somoharjo, who had left the ruling New Front Party before the election. On July 19, 2010, Bouterse was elected as president of Suriname with 36 of the 51 votes. He was installed to the office on August 12, 2010. His running mate was the current Vice President of Suriname, Robert Amirali. The current cabinet consists of the following cabinet members. The First Minister of Spatial Planning Martinus Sastranredho had been relieved of his duties at the end of 2010 due to his life partner asking for a piece of land with the help of a ministry official. He was succeeded by Simon Martos Artimin, also a member of the political party KTPI. the second minister to leave office due to personal reasons, is the first Minister of Finance and AMP Planning at the entrance of this cabinet, Ms. Wani Bodho. At the end of April 2011, several ministers have been dismissed due to political changes in the cabinet. Among these ministers were Paul Abina, Martin Misyagin, Celsius Waterberg, Linus Deco and Simon Martos Artimin. The ministers Raymond Sapone, Michael Miskin and Jintmado Chromosoato had to change posts. In addition to the new formed cabinet, 2 deputy ministers have been installed. Mahinda Gopi served as the Secretary of the President and is now the Deputy Minister of Regional Development. Abigail Liagwe, a loyalist of Pajajalu, her chairman Paul Somahojo started as the Deputy Minister of Public Works and AMP Traffic, but has moved to the Ministry of Agriculture in October 2012. Alongside the President are his 4 top advisors. Jules Weidenbush handles the country's administrative and constitutional affairs. Errol Alabix advises the President about foreign affairs and international laws. Eddie Joseph Zoon deals with the country's social and educational issues, and Andy Roslin takes the nation's economics for his account. Furthermore, the President has appointed his longtime propagandist and talk show host, Clifton Limber, is his press secretary and cabinet spokesman. Bouterse installed an IMF official Gilmore Hodrad as the new governor of the Central Bank of Suriname. Controversial honoring of the coup. After his inauguration, Bouterse immediately honored all 9 still-living conspirators, who together with Bouterse were involved in the violent 1980 Surinamese coup d'etat, with the Grand Cordon of the Honorary Order of the Yellow Star, the highest honor of Suriname. This led internationally to great controversy, since all 9 are accused of involvement in the December murders of 1982, when 15 prominent young Surinamese men were tortured and murdered because they criticized the then military dictatorship in Suriname. After becoming president, Bouterse also designated February 25, the anniversary of the coup d'etat, as a national holiday. According to former President Ronald Venetiaan, the 25th of February should not be a holiday, but a national day of mourning. Pardons. In December 2011, President Bouterse granted a pardon to his foster son Romano Meriba, who in 2005 was convicted to 15 years imprisonment of murder and robbery of a Chinese trader in 2002. Meriba was also convicted for throwing a hand grenade at the house of the Dutch ambassador. Judge Valstein Montner, also the judge in the December murders case, considered proven by evidence that Meriba tried to commit a similar robbery at the later stage. This was however prevented by guards from the Dutch embassy. In response, Meriba then threw a hand grenade from a car to the residence of the Dutch ambassador. The pardon caused a lot of commotion in the country, as it is the first time a Surinamese president pardons a murder with robbery. People that have committed such heavy offense should not get a pardon, said former Justice Minister Chan Santoki. Besides, the requirement that a thorough investigation must be conducted and that the decision should be based on the advice by the judge who passed the sentence was ignored. Bouterse's staff denied that the fact that Meriba is the foster son of President Bouterse played a role in the decision to grant the pardon, as there were strong legal arguments for the pardon. According to rumors, after Meriba went out of jail, he got employed at the heavily armed counter-terror unit, which was led by Dino Bouterse, son of Dési Bouterse. This would not be the first time that Bouterse accepted former convicts near him. In Bouterse's delegation that visited a South American summit, 2 other members apart from Bouterse had a criminal drug record. Former military Etienne Boyenveen and Hans Janash. Such people now circulate around the state power, said Venetiaan, former president of Suriname. Meriba was arrested on March 23. 2012 in Paramaribo because he was accused of assaulting and beating up a citizen and police officer the night before in a nightclub. He was not in custody of the police for long because the accusation was retracted the following day. After 2015 Surinamese legislative election, Bouterse's NDP won 26 seats and he was re-elected unopposed on the 14th of July 2015. WikiLeaks cables released in 2011 reveal that U.S. diplomats believed on the basis of information from sensitive sourcing that Bouterse was involved in drug trafficking until 2006. The cables report the connection between Bouterse and top Guyanese criminals Roger Khan and Eduardo Beltran. Khan was believed to help Bouterse's financial situation by giving him the means to supplement his income through narcotics trafficking. According to the cables, Bouterse met Roger Khan several times in Nikari at the house of MP Rashid Doki, who is a prominent member of Bouterse's political party. The cables also report that Bouterse and Khan were plotting to assassinate then Minister of Justice Chan Santoki and Attorney General Subhas Punwazi. Khan, who is known as the Guyanese Pablo Escobar and whose name is mentioned in almost 200 murders in Guyana, was arrested in Paramaribo in June 2006 in a sting operation by the Surinamese police. By order of then Minister of Justice Chan Santoki, he was deported to the United States of America, where he was sentenced to 40-year imprisonment on charges of smuggling large amounts of cocaine into the United States of America, witness tampering and illegal possession of firearms. Eduardo Beltran is a major regional narcotics logistics transportation handler currently operating out of Venezuela. Beltran reportedly traveled to Suriname on a monthly basis.